your host, Mimosa,
and co-host Kareem.
Welcome to Sometimes We're Boujee and Sometimes We Hood, to healing, navigating grief. It's a podcast dedicated to exploring the complex emotions of loss, the road to healing, and the strength found in remembrance. Welcome in. Welcome to Sometimes We're Boujee.
Hey, sometimes we're hood. What's going on?
It's good. I know. People are probably like, where in the world have these two been? But you know what? This is a podcast dedicated to exploring the complex emotions of loss, the road to healing, and the strength found in remembrance, where we speak the truth about loss, healing, and everything in between. I'm your host, Auntie Mimosa.
Hey, it's cousin Kareem. How y'all doing?
And whether you're in the depths of grief, slowly learning to live with loss, or supporting someone on their journey, I cannot talk today. This space is for you. Grief is deeply personal. There's no timeline, no rule book, and no right or wrong way to navigate through it. But through shared experiences, honest conversations, and moments of reflection, we can find comfort, understanding, and hope. Today's episode is actually part 2 of Grief Isn't Linear, breaking the stages of grief myth, right? So if you've ever felt pressure to move on or just get over it, right? You've likely run into the idea of the 5 stages of grief, and you know them. We all know them well. What's up, Society's Finest? I'm also on TikTok Live. So you all know them: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And these stages have been taught in schools, written in countless books, and even quoted in movies. But there's truth, and grief doesn't follow a neat checklist, right? That's the truth about grief. It does not follow a neat and pencil point, check this box here because I'm in denial, check this box here because I'm in anger, I'm now in bargaining, I'm now in depression, I'm now in acceptance. It doesn't work like that. Grief is messy, it's cyclical, and it's deeply personal. And today we're going to break the myth wide open. So, on the last episode, or part 1 of Breaking the Myth, we talked about the different stages. We also talked about, the different stages. We also talked about the difference, there's several differences. We have oh, my brain just left me. They've added 2 more stages to grief, right? And we talked about the acceptance, finally accepting it and learning to live with it. So we're picking up today with the reality of grief. That's who we are today. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. Do your daily heartbeat, share, comment, and like. Gain your points, your points for the day. So you talk about grief in waves, as waves, spirals, or in seasons, right? Grief comes, it's like an ocean, right? The waves come in, the waves go out. Sometimes it's soft ripples, other times it's like a hurricane or a tornado coming in, right? And at first it feels relentless, right? The waves coming in, it's coming in, tumbling one after the other. And sometimes it feels like it's just impossible to like bear with it or stand with it, right? And then other times it comes in calm, and it you can get gently swept away, now and then. But you also learn, how to float, you learn how to breathe, and you learn how to, you learn how to ride them as time moves on. And the waves, they don't stop, right? They don't stop. But it's your relationships to them that change. It's your relationship with grief that changes. What are your thoughts about that, cousin Kareem?
It is. It is. You have to take into account how close you are to people
Mm-hmm.
and what they meant to you, because that's what really determines. Okay, we were talking about that before, right? Like people pass away, and you're just like, oh, what's on TV? It's just like, I don't know, but yeah, I believe that. Yeah, it is a relationship of how you're affected by it, how you feel about the person, situation.
Mm-hmm. It does. It does, right? So, you know, it's like sometimes it doesn't even disappear, right?
Yeah.
It's like, and the ocean is very powerful. And this is the metaphor. The ocean is very powerful. Sometimes that grief does not disappear. Like I said, you can get tossed and turned in it, or and then you get swept away with grief, and then other times is very gentle. Like I said, you learn to breathe through it, you learn to deal with it. And as I've said before, grief is just another stage of love, right?
Mm.
And depending on the person, it's a reflection of the type of love you have for them, right? It's a reflection of that. Other times, grief is like a spiral. You find yourself caught in a circle going, back to the same emotions, sadness, anger, guilt. And then you wonder why, like, why am I here again? Like, but
Mm.
each time you return, you're not in the same place with it, right? You've grown, you've changed. Sometimes the spiral will take you deeper. It'll get wider, and it'll offer you like new perspectives in each turn, each go round, right? So with that, like I can, speaking from personal experience, right? I can say like my grief with the transition of my mother and my grief with the transition of my grandmother and the grief with the transition of my son, my oldest son, like all three are different, right? Whereas I'm gonna take my grandmother for instance, right? I'll start with her first. So with my grandmother, like I feel like my grandmother's always around, you
Mm.
know. So I'm always talking to her, all right, Millie, help me out here today. Come on,
She's
And
your voice of wisdom, kind of
right,
like
right.
that.
Yes, she's my voice of wisdom. And like depending on what I'm doing is where I call on her. Now, and I don't feel as sad, okay? Or I don't feel, the denial, the anger, the guilt with my grandmother's transition. Now, whereas one of my aunts, she'll be like, "Oh, I almost called Nanny today." And she'll be in tears.
Mm.
My grandmother's, her youngest daughter, she'll be in tears. And then there's moments like with my mom, I'll think about my mom and I'll feel, I feel sadness. And then like with my aunts, they may not feel, and this is their sister. They may not feel it as or they may feel it more. You know what I'm saying? Because that's their sister. She's been in their lives a whole lot longer than she was in mine. And the role was different, you know. And then I have my moments with Deej. Okay. Um, I had a moment briefly last night, where I went to an event and I was on my way home and I was just thinking about how much he would have enjoyed that event with me. And I started to tear up, then I was like, okay, you're not going to do this. You are not going to do this on the way home. You got to see. You can't see at night, so don't you start crying. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking to myself about it. Then, I have moments where, you know, with Deej, with Darius, where I'm just like, boy, I just miss you so much, and I have my moments when I talk about his life where I get pissed. I do. I get angry. So it does come and go. It comes and goes.
Yeah, the regrets of things that could have been. Yeah, I remember talking to you about that. You know, the I'm buffering. There it goes. Okay,
Hmm.
goes back. It's like you know that person's gone, but then you sit back and you start to think about the things that could have been, and then it makes
Hmm.
you mad because you're like, then you start to reflect: was it me? Was it something else? Was it this? Like, what could have changed? What were those circumstances? What was the variables that could have changed the outcome? And then
Right.
now you're sitting back and you're like, start to dwell on it because your emotional connection to that person. And then now
Hmm.
you're like, man, and sometimes if you don't stop, and for me, I have to literally like verbally talk to myself, like not think it, but I gotta like literally like say something out of my mouth so I
Hmm.
can hear myself in that situation.
Right.
So I'm not thinking that way because you go down a rabbit hole and then a whole all of a sudden that's where you are and you realize you're an hour and a half in that mode and you know
Hmm.
it's
Definitely.
longer the longer the separation from the actual day that they went on to the time where you're at now.
Right.
I feel that for me, I had to tell myself that I need to just stop. Like the
Hmm.
other day, I was driving someplace. The idiot cut me off, and I'm like, man, mom, I'm so thank God for you that you taught me how to drive. In New York,
Right.
you know, you threatened me like if I damage your car, because that's what I think about, like the damage to the car more so than anything else, and somebody getting hurt. But
Right.
but I thank God that she taught me how to drive a car in New York, let alone a
Hmm.
stick. And
Right.
you know, I'm just glad about that, and I had to thanks.
Hmm.
Then I'm like, man, if you could see your granddaughter the way she drives, it's like she's been driving. My oldest daughter, Sean, is like a old soul. She got in
Uh-huh.
the car and started driving like she's been driving for like 10 years. I'm looking at her like, what teenager doesn't get nervous? She was just calm as a cucumber.
She was
And
very
I'm like,
comfortable behind the wheel.
yeah, it's like she got like an old spirit in her or something, just relaxed and comfortable. But
Right.
I was like, Mom, I said, look at this. You'd be so impressed by her
Right.
because she drives like you. I mean, she don't drive eating French fries and stuff, but in time, I
Hmm.
guess that will come. But yeah, go ahead. That was just a long drawn out. So,
Right. Well, we know.
pardon me, y'all.
Right. So we know, like I said, grief isn't linear. Like it circles back. It comes in circles, right? And like maybe, you know, someone would have felt like I should be past this by now. I don't know how many of you may have had that feeling like when, grief comes up and you're like, I should be past this by now.
Yeah,
Or I should have moved on. I shouldn't be so angry. I shouldn't be so sad, or I shouldn't still be in denial about the transition of this loved one. But grief doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. Um, like a spiral, it brings us back to the familiar feelings, right? But like I said, each time we're a little different. You're carrying new strength, you're carrying new perspective, and you have new tools in how you deal with grief each and every time. So, for example, like returning to an anniversary of a loss or holiday might bring it back, you know. Um, like September, Um, it was the and my sister Chantel. It was her mother's uh transition anniversary, and it was also my grandmother's transition anniversary,
Oh, wow.
right? Um, and what's crazy, the crazy part about it is like in talking to one of my, my other sisters, talking to my sister Barbara, she was like, yeah, she wasn't dealing with it too good. And the crazy
Where's it
part of
been? 3 years?
no,
2 years.
2 years, 2 years. And for
Yeah.
me, like with my grandmother, I kind of breezed through the day and was like, oh, I got to the, you know what I'm saying? I got to the end of the day and was just like, oh, now does it, like, I mean, I really got to the end of the day before it dawned on me that it was the grief anniversary, the anniversary, not of her death, but like of the funeral. You know what I'm saying? And I was just like, is something wrong with me that I didn't read? Like it, I went through the whole day not realizing mentally, like mentally not realizing. I think physically I felt it because I was really, really tired, you know. Um, but yeah, I was like, okay. But that just shows like the growth that I have when it comes to grief. I didn't wallow in it. Um, I didn't stay in it. Now with my oldest son Deej, with Darius's transition, that's different. When it comes to his death, his transition anniversary, F1, I forgot, these words. When it comes to his transition day and his birthdays, those are the two hardest days for me to get through. They really are. They really are. And I do reflect back. I reflect back. And sometimes on his transition day, because because he was hit by a car, it's like the anger in me arises all over again. It really does. When I think about it, the anger of him being hit by a car, thankfully the driver stayed with him. Um, but yeah, that anger just it rises heavily, um, and weighs in on me. And I have to catch myself. I really have to catch myself from time to time and just reflect back on the joys of his life and not stay in the angry mode. I have to just think about all the joy he brought me when he was here, when he was alive, you know. Um how about, here's a question. When have you felt yourself circling back to grief? And did it feel the same, or did you notice something new about yourself? TikTok viewers, I see I have three of you on. Answer that question. When have you felt yourself circling back to grief? And did it feel the same, or did you notice something new about how you experienced that grief?
I think when you circle back, say like the new, it's as you grow. For instance, like maybe you with Darren that you would want to express his success with your grandmother. You know what I mean? As he
Hmm.
continues on, and then now you're like, I would wish that I had the opportunity to talk to their grandmother about, their growth and what's going on next. So, you know, I think that's when it's like another newness. You're experiencing something new. Now you're
Hmm.
on a different conversation.
So that's uh-huh. cousin Kareem is having some technical difficulties over there in Hawaii. He's buffering really, really bad. So we're gonna move to like grief as seasons, right? Sometimes grief can feel like a season. Like winter can be heavy and still, spring is greeny, tiny and green and shoots and whispers of hope, whereas summer brings warmth and moments of laughter, and autumn reminds us of change, right? And of letting go again. And then season shifts, just like grief shifts. So we don't control the cycle, but we can learn to live inside it, right? So here's another question for you. If your grief were a season right now, if your grief was a season right now, which one would it be and why? Which one would it be and why? So I would have to say if my grief was a season, um, which one would it be and why? I guess it would be like I would have to say it depends on the person. I'm grieving. Um for my son, I'm gonna say it banters between summer and winter. Um for my grandmother it's like summer, and for my mom it's like summer. And for some of my other relatives, it's like summer. It's warm moments of laughter because I think about them and experiences, things that they said, and just laugh, like really laugh about shared experiences and memories, right? So, for example, my mom, I told this story one time before, and if she was still here on this earthly plane, she would probably hang me for telling this story. But, or however, the story goes like this. So we went to the beach, right? And I kept warning my mom about the ocean. Like when I lived in Wilmington, North Carolina, I kept explaining to her, like, you are stepping into the ocean. You're not stepping into an inlet. Like Jones Beach in New York is an inlet. So the waves, they hit, they crash, but not as hard as if you were stepping into the actual ocean. In Wilmington, North Carolina, in Carolina Beach, that is the actual ocean you are stepping into. My mom didn't believe me. Now, she had her knee, she couldn't walk that good because her knees, she had like really weak knees and stuff. And she was partaking in some extracurricular activities. And I kept warning her. So she didn't listen. So my sons, they went out, they running and playing in the water. I'm standing. Now I know, like, I know what it is. I'm just standing at the edge of the shore. I'm letting the waves crash in. They're hitting me between knees and ankle. And here comes my mom. She decides that she wants to come stand beside me in the water. So she comes and she stands beside me. And what happens? A wave comes in and crashes at our knees, right at our knees. My mom tumbles. She's rolling in the water, flailing like a fish, arms all over the place. She's hollering, ah, she's just hollering and rolling and flailing. And I just looked down and looked over at her and was just like, so I reached over. Now I hadn't moved, right? Because my feet were kind of buried into the sand from the ocean pulling the sand out and back in. So I just reach over by her back of her bathing suit and shirt and just stand her up like she's a rag doll and walk her up the beach. And she's steady yelling, flailing arms, flailing. And I think after maybe about 5 or 10 steps, I was like, "Ma, you're not in the water anymore." And she was just like, "Oh." And then just, I was like, and I just walked into her chair and plopped her back in her chair, and that was that was that. So that's the summer. You know what I'm saying? That's one of those like, okay, that's what you would call like a summer grief because it's joyful, it's laughter, it's memory. Um, yeah, yeah.
What about those wisdom griefs? Those
Oh,
moments when you're in deep thought, or you got to make a decision, or you're in a position of concern, and
mm,
now you're like, you know what? And you just find yourself like you said, your grandma. You just sometimes you just find yourself talking, and then you spiritually hear back, you get the answer,
mm-hmm,
and then you're like, then you of course you come out of that, and you're like, you're not here, but you're here. You
mm-hmm.
know what I mean? It's like for those who are spiritual, it's a different kind of experience because now you're like, wow, I do understand the spiritual essence of things now. But
Mm-hmm.
it's a good feeling, but then it's still that feeling of melancholy. But you know that you can't hug them. You're like, thank you. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
you just left with the memory still,
Mm-hmm.
but you got the answer that you needed. But it's still not the way you wanted to receive because you really want them still there. You know,
Right.
it's yeah,
Oh yeah. Yeah. I have those moments where I'm like, listen, I need you here today. Like, come with it. You know. I'm like, come on, Nan. Like, what would you do? Like, help, 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 help. So she'll nudge me. She'll nudge me. And then, and this is funny though. You talk about spirituality and grief and people who actually reach out to their ancestors and talk to them. They don't always talk to you the same way as
no,
if they were here, right?
right.
Welcome in TikTok fam. They don't talk to you the same way. Like my my grandmother was mean. I say that all the time. People be like, "Your grandmother wasn't mean. She's just the sweetest, oh little old lady." Y'all didn't grow up with her. Now you,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
didn't live with her every day.
Oh man.
You didn't live with her every day.
Yeah,
So, with that in mind, she doesn't like when I'm looking for wisdom and guidance from her. And it's crazy because sometimes I want to hear, I'm listening to hear her the way she sounded when she was like alive, alive and well, but that's not how it comes across. It comes
right.
across very different, which is, and I'm thankful for. I'm thankful. And I always say, like, when I'm in the kitchen baking, especially baking and cooking, you know I call on, my aunt Hannah. I'm like, hey, Aunt Hannah, because she was out the baker of the family, and I'm like, all right, guide me through this. I need you here in this kitchen with me. Like, you know what I'm saying? And she'll show up. And I know, like, when I'm working certain things, like when I'm baking my banana pudding cake, or I'm making, whatever cake I'm making, I know she is present. I know she's here. She's like, you got this. You know what I'm saying? Put a little of this, add a little of that. Don't just don't follow that recipe to the T. She's like, do something a little different. So, and that's what I do. But, and with that, I want to say we're going to switch to like transition to like grief can feel as heavy as a backpack, right? Um, grief
Yes, indeed.
can,
Sometimes you
right,
gotta unpack that like that.
right. And in the beginning, it can be overwhelming. You can hardly take a step without feeling crushed by the weight, and you don't necessarily lose the weight, right? The backpack stays with you, and but over time it's like you learn how to adjust the straps, how to shift your body, how to take breaths, like, right, your muscles grow stronger, And the backpack, it doesn't disappear. And it's not like you can just take it off and put it down, but the way you carry it changes, right? It just becomes a part of your journey and it's not the end of it, right? Um, and like normalizing your feelings when it comes to grief. It's yours, right?
Hmm.
It's yours. It doesn't belong to anybody else. It is yours. Okay.
Oh,
Like we
oh,
say,
yes.
right. So grief doesn't follow a script. We continue to say this. It doesn't follow a script. There's no right or wrong way to it. There is no rule book to how you deal with it. It doesn't follow a script. It might, you might even laugh at a funeral, right? And it doesn't mean that you love any less, you love that person any less. It just means your body found a moment of relief in the heaviness, right? You
And that's a
might
great
find,
thing sometimes. That's a great thing. It's
right,
like a stress relief.
it
Almost.
is. You might find yourself in a ball of tears later, years later, on an anniversary, because you're longing after, others think that you should be quote unquote better or you've gotten over it. You might even feel a surge of anger after you thought you've already reached acceptance, you know, when you thinking, oh, I'm good with this. And then bam, you in a ball of tears, you're in a corner crying, you're in the bed crying, you're sitting in your car just crying, and you're thinking, I should be over this. I should be good by now. No, don't let anybody ever tell you that either. And none of it means that you're going backwards. It means that the grief is alive. It bends, it twists, and it comes up in the most unopportune times, right? Um, it's out of order feelings that are still real to feel, right? And I say this, grief is an extension or it's another way to love on that person. And it's grief is a part of the human experience, of holding love and loss at the same time, right? It's holding loss and love at the same time. So if your grief feels like, if it feels messy, if it's unpredictable, even if it's, um, you know, contradictory, you're not doing it wrong. Nobody can say that you're wrong. Okay. Nobody can say that how you're feeling is wrong or you're not doing it right. You're grieving simply as a human being knows how to grieve. Right?
Yeah. Man, it's a part of you that's being ripped out of you. You know what I mean? Like I said, depending on the closeness that you were to that person, close you were, especially parents, family members, that took the time to feed into your growth. Those are the ones that have more attachments, that it's like literally trying to separate, something from you with strings that are just constantly going to be attached to you.
Mm-hmm.
And pulling it away, as it's being pulled away from you, your strings are being held on to,
Mm-hmm.
like a web. Like, you can't get away. Like, the more that the closeness you are, the more entwined you are with that person that's
Right.
being now that has been removed from your life physically.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're dealing with the mental strings, with the spiritual strings. It's being separated from you to try to remove those strings. But in a lot of ways, I believe that you should remember these people. Like, you shouldn't. I think some people feel like, if I can just forget, then I can move on completely. When I don't think that that's the right thing to do for me personally. I think it's just a matter of you reorganizing in yourself. How do
Right.
you relate now to this person's physical who has passed on, but the spiritual is still there? Mentally, you're still connected because they affected your growth mentally. So you can't detach that.
Right.
And
Exactly.
why would you? You
Right.
know, it's
Right.
like this cope. You should. I think if people under stopped and said, you know what, let me figure out how I want to cope with this. So I want
Mm-hmm.
to honor their memory and continue on. That movie Coco hit me differently because I looked at the Day of the Dead a different way.
Right.
You know, after that, as far as like keeping that person in memory and
Yes.
stuff like that. Because if you look at it that way, then it helps with the grieving process because you can still have a relationship
Mm-hmm.
with that person and through memory,
Right.
you know,
Exactly.
emotionally and spiritually,
Right.
mentally.
Exactly.
But we're
Exactly.
selfish to want to get it physically, not that
Right.
physical connection, you know.
Right. And I believe that's all of us. It's like we we never want that individual to go. And it's like we want them to be a part of our lives forever, you know. And which is it's an insane thought because we're not here forever. So like when do we expect them to make their transition? When we make ours, like everybody leaves at one time. I
Right,
mean,
right.
like does everybody leave at the same time? No. Um But like you said, grief is like, like carrying that heavy backpack. Grief changes how we move through the world, right? But here's something that's like just as important. It's just like we don't leave our loved ones behind. We still carry them with us. Okay. Some memories stronger than others or more prevalent than others, right? And sometimes people say you have to move on. But I'm going to pause here and tell you something different. We don't move on, right? We do move forward. We move forward with the person we lost, right? You move forward with them. So researchers they call this continuing bonds. Like you said, we're still connected to those individuals. It's the idea of the fact that our relationships don't end when someone transitions, right? They just transform.
Mm,
And we might hear their voice in our head when we make a decision. Like I said, cook their favorite meal on a specific holiday. We might wear their jewelry, use their sayings, or even laugh the way they laughed, right? So,
yeah,
with that, what I tell you, I wear all the time.
yeah.
These are my grandmother's earrings. I wear her earrings all the time.
And the bracelets.
I wear a bracelet of my mother's all the time. Deej is usually around my neck, but that particular I have to get another chain. But Deej is usually around my neck because I have his cremation urn. It's a pendant. It's a dragon pendant that I wear with him all the time. So those three, they're always with me. Always with me. Um and like these bonds that we have, they're not a sign of being stuck. You're not
No,
stuck, by no means necessary. They're a sign of love, and they remind us that the connection doesn't end, it's not severed, even if the body goes, right? We keep walking, we walk with them in memory and ritual, in the choices we make every single day. They're with us through our chaos. You know what I'm saying? um like if you can always take a moment to think of like one way your loved one still is with you, still walks with you, right?
yeah,
um Maybe it is something you say, maybe it's something you do. It's the feeling that you might, you may or may not, you may have in your heart. Like, how might you honor that bond in the days ahead? How do you think you would honor that bond or continue to create that bond?
Yeah, you gotta talk, speak the memories, recount the memories. That's what I
Mm-hmm.
believe. It's like I said, for me, that movie Coco really hit hard because think about the people that you never heard about, especially like with ancestry, African ancestry, whatever, all these things.
Mm-hmm.
And people like one generation removed and nobody talks about them no more. Then you go and look them up and you're like, yo, this person was a doctor or this person was this and this. And you're like,
Mm-hmm.
why haven't I heard about it? And it's like the stories weren't told. And so the accomplishments weren't told or shared. And
Mm-hmm.
so you never know how that could affect somebody who, like a child, going through something right now, trying to make a decision of which path to go. If they just knew that, hey, I had an Olympic athlete in my family. I can go out and, yeah, I might have failed this season, but I had Olympic athlete in my family play doing the same sport as me.
Mm-hmm.
Change your whole concept of trying to get through life or trying to get through that sport. But
Mm-hmm.
if these stories aren't told, then we lose out on pieces of who we are made up of.
Right.
And I think that it's a service by not telling the stories. That's how long does a story take to tell? We tell stories all the time, you
Mm-hmm.
know, especially the funny ones. So
Right.
why just pass that down? You know, it's
Right.
like I always laugh because I find so many people. Some comedians said it, but I laugh. Bernie Mac was talking about getting chopped in the throat. I remember the first time my grandmother chopped me in the throat, I thought I was going to die. But then, we watching Kings of Comedy, and all of a sudden you calling up your cousins like, yo, remember we got chopped in the throat? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's funny because we survived. And these are some
Right.
funny
We
stories.
survived the throat chops. I'm trying to tell you. Yes, we did. I can
You
I'm
know,
saying, was
and
it
it's like,
true?
but these are the funny stories because,
Mm-hmm.
my kids, like, I would never chop them in the throat. Then I'm like, maybe I should just do it just because,
Just,
just because.
just because. Just give him a throat chop for the heck of it,
You know what I
right?
mean? Just catch them when they
Oh.
walking around the corner.
Now you know how I felt.
Yeah, exactly. Just remember, now you know the story to tell.
Reminiscing. Give
Yeah.
this something to reminisce about, right?
Or those
Oh,
slipper
goodness.
stories, people throw the
Mm.
slipper and the slipper somehow miraculously in the corner.
Right?
This is,
Wow.
you know, everybody got a switch story. From
Oh,
our age group, I don't know about
yeah.
now these young people, but
Yes,
grandparents got soft.
yeah, Gen X. No, Gen X. We have switch stories. Yeah, I don't think we could. Grandparents. We got. It wasn't. It's not a matter of us being soft. Government and other
Yeah,
people
yeah, yeah,
want
yeah.
to get into
Like,
parenting, how to parent. But it is what it is.
exactly.
But
Fancy
so
clothes.
as we say, there is a line between abuse and spankings. There is a line. There is a line. Okay.
Now there is.
You know. Well,
Psychologically, too. They
right.
evaluate, but
There is a line. So we talked about grief as waves, spirals, seasons, and even as a backpack. We talked about bonds that continue. But I also want to give you some practical tools, right? Things you could actually do to support yourself in the day to day in dealing with your grief. So,
yes,
excuse me.
need that.
We always talk about journaling, right? But journaling without forcing stages, okay? Write freely without trying to like fit your grief into denial, anger, bargaining,
Yeah.
depression, or acceptance. Like those stages were never meant to be like a road map for mourners.
Outline, yeah, to your
It's not
writing.
an
Yeah,
outline. It was never meant to be fixed. It was never meant to be set in stone that you are to follow these grief guidelines. Never meant to be set in stone. Okay. And your journal can hold like whatever shows up, questions, memories, fragments of sentences, even drawings. Like I said, again, there's no wrong or right way to journal when it comes to your grief. Not at all. Okay. And give yourself permission. If you write one word on the page, just one word, laugh, ma, son, daughter, whatever that word is that reminds you of that person for that day, just write that one word. That's it. And then close it if you can't, if nothing else comes to mind, if you're not able to write anything else. That's it, just let that be, right? Um Using community, like grief, it is heavy. Okay. And it's heavy to carry along. So of course, you have support groups, you have your faith communities, therapy. I'm an advocate for therapy, men and women, children, teens alike. I'm an advocate for therapy. Or even that one trusted friend that can help you. Sometimes just being with people who get it is enough. And community doesn't take away the pain, but it reminds us that we don't have to hold it all by ourselves, right? And this is a practice that I learned and I utilize. And one of my sister friends is now utilizing it. And I had told her about this before, and it took her to go to another group session, like a workshop, to realize how to use it, right? So when I need to vent or get things off my chest, I will call a girlfriend and I will say, "Can I vent?" That's the first thing. I don't just start in. I ask them. Well, no, the first thing I said, "Do you have a moment? Are you busy?" That's my first question, because I don't start without asking them if they're busy. Then if they say they're not busy, I go, my next statement is, "Can you hold space for me? Because I need to vent." And I think I've done that to you, Kareem. I actually be busy. Could you hold space for me? Because I need to vent. I need to just get some things off my chest. If they say yes, then you just unload. You unload.
Yeah.
Okay. And the
Yeah.
person is listening, they know the key is in that practice is just to let you get it out. Okay. And there is no fixing whatever's wrong, whatever you're venting about. There's no fixing it. There is no resolution. It's just a matter of, I need to vent. I need to get this out. Can you hold space for me and allow me to just brrrah. The other person don't even have to be listening. They need to just put the phone down. They really don't. They just need you just need them to hold space for you to get that out. And then once you're done, you say thank you. I honor you, and then you hang up the phone, and you get over, and it's a done deal. That's it. It's a done deal. There's no more talking
That's
about it.
good.
There's no
Yeah.
more, right. There's no more talking about it. There's no, like I said, there's no resolution. There's no fixing it. It is just, hey, do you have a moment? Are you busy? If it's a no, if it's a yes, then okay, can you call me back as soon as possible? Or if you have somebody else you can call the next person. Hey, are you busy? No. Okay. Can you hold space for me? I need to vent. Give me 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes. Get it out. Once you get it out, thank you. I honor you. I appreciate you for allowing me to hold space for me, and then hang up the phone. Because what I find is that if you stay on the phone, you want to talk about that situation or whatever it is that you just let
Yeah.
out.
Try to untangle it. Yeah. Trying to figure it all out at
And
that point.
that is not what needs to be done at that point, especially when you're grieving. You just need to get it out and then hang up the phone, right?
Yeah. Good point though. You got a good. I think I'm glad you brought that up about asking, because there's some people who don't do good in
No.
conflict resolution, or don't do good in trying to have empathy, and so, or they could be going through something, and you don't need that last straw in your heap, and somebody call you up and they just start letting off, and you like click, or some people will just let it happen, and then they'll be mad. Like I had this dude go in on me, call me up, and go on me about one of our other boys, and his negative energy transferred so bad to me, and I let it in. because I thought I was being a good friend.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to this nonsense complaining. That I almost went out and like snapped on, beat somebody up because of they said something wrong to me, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, why would I even? Like, it wasn't even that serious. And then it dawned on me that his negative energy jumped into me,
Mm-hmm.
and I let it encompass me. And I'm like, oh man, I called him back. I said, don't you ever do that to me again.
Right.
Don't
You
you
have to
ever
ask.
do that to me again. Like,
Right.
you could
And
be in the
hold.
mood. You need to let me
Mm-hmm.
know ahead of time so I can decide if I want to enter into that conversation. Don't just drop no negative nonsense on me like that. But you know,
Right. And
never
see, and
got
the people, right, and the person that you call, when you tell them that I need to vent and can you hold space for me, they immediately know to block it.
yeah,
They know to block it out because you're not, and they know to block it out. So, and here's the concept: they are there to observe, not absorb.
mm, good. That's a
Okay,
good one.
they are there to observe, which is just to be present, but not absorb. Right? That's it. That's why you have to ask for, like, basically you're asking for permission. Can you vent? When you ask them, are they busy and can you hold space? Because when they say yes, I can hold space, they
Yep.
automatically, they're shielding. You know what I'm saying? They're shielding. They're automatically turning into the observer. And that's why I said at the end there is no discussion. You thank you.
Yeah.
I honor you. I appreciate you for holding space for me. Get off the phone. Hang
Yeah.
up. Do not start to talk about that situation. It is not to be fixed. It is not to
People,
be resolved. That
people
it,
gotta be
even
careful.
if you
Yeah,
agree,
you're right. Good. No, I was
you
gonna say,
know. Mm-hmm.
some people gotta be. You gotta be careful too with your significant others because you might share something, and it might make the other person, other half, feel some kind of way about what you're complaining about. So, especially if you're complaining about a person, to the point that this person did something to you, and the person complaining or venting doesn't have enough pride in themselves to see that they need to let go of this person. But you're sitting on the outside, wait, they did what? And now you feeling some kind of way towards this other person. I did nothing to you, something to your loved one.
Mm-hmm.
And now the person who's venting has to recognize or should recognize that the feelings have changed, the energy has changed towards this person. They might just be venting because this person did something to them.
Mm-hmm.
But the significant other's like, yo, that's majorly disrespectful. Like if I
Right.
see you, I might have to first.
Right.
Like I'm
So
letting you know. And they're like, why are you taking it so serious? Like, what? Why am I saying? Did you hear what you just told me to you? Like, where are we
so
at? Right? What are we
right.
talking
Be
about?
careful with your community, who you choose
Yeah,
who
exactly.
you
You
talk
might
to
be
and who you
grieving.
vent to. Right.
Right. You might be grieving and venting about a situation with a friend that you grew up with, and your significant other might come out and be like, nah, we ain't having that. Like you and me, so we ain't having that. I'm gonna let
Mm-hmm.
you know ahead of time. And people don't think about that aspect of it when you sing, especially when
Right.
it's a somebody that you close with,
Mm-hmm.
that you, especially like a
Right.
significant other, and
Right.
you venting about somebody abusing you, it hits different because now responsibilities of the significant other. Like,
Mm.
am I gonna? I want to yourself. Like, why are you letting this happen? Or,
Right.
like I said, you're gonna. Okay, well, if we cross paths, just letting you know, I'm about to say something.
Right. So here we go, talking about grief in every aspect of life. And when it comes to relationships, and when you are grieving and you have to vent and use your community, you have to know that whoever you utilizing in that community has to be a trusted individual. And they have to know to be the observer and not the to be the observer and not to absorb
Abs-
the
yeah,
energy. All right. And then permission, give yourself permission to circle back and revisit your feelings. Like you might find that you feel peaceful one week and deeply angry the next. That does not mean you failed. It means you're human. Healing isn't a straight line. Grief is not a straight line. Okay? Again, there's no right or wrong way to grieve. There's no rule book to grieving. There is no getting over it. None of that. Um, then you have like mind and body practices. Our bodies hold grief too. Simple practices like deep breathing, stretching, taking a gentle walk can calm the nervous system. You don't have to run a marathon or meditate for 5 hours at a time. Just one mindful breath is a step towards steadiness. And then there's breathing exercises. I stumbled across breathing exercises on YouTube and I love them. I absolutely love them. You know, I do like a 15-minute routine in the morning. Helps keep me focused, keeps my mind clear. Then there's language shift. Like the words we use shape how we experience grief. Instead of saying like moving on, try moving forward. Instead of telling yourself that you should be past this by now, whatever stage of grief you're in, try, grief is a part of my love and love doesn't end. And these are small shifts that really matter. It's like it's giving you or, giving us permission to honor the truth of grieving without judgment. Right? Right.
Right.
So, with that being said, Cousin Kareem, any final thoughts before we close out today?
Love the way you're gonna love and
Mm.
understand love. With love, there's joy, but there's also pain. But remember
Love.
that there's always the joy can outstand and outrun that reign of the pain.
All right. That was heavy. Love the way you love. That's it. All right. So, with that being said, grief is not an interruption to life. It is not. It is life. It's part of love's story. If you're grieving, you are not broken, by no means necessary, and you are carrying something absolutely sacred. Thank you for spending this hour with us here on Sometimes We Bougie, Sometimes We Hood. And if this episode has helped, share it with a friend who might need it. You are not alone in this journey. There is no timeline. There is no right or wrong way to grieve. Honor your feelings, embrace the memories, and allow space to heal in your own time. Right? We love to hear from you, your comments, your reflections, your rituals, your journey. So connect with us on Instagram at Queen of Life Empowerment or SBSH Grief Podcast. On Facebook, it's Sometimes We're Bougie, Sometimes We Hood. We're still trying to get to that 100 member mark so we can broadcast live from there. On TikTok, it's Sometimes We're Bougie and Hood. And if you would like to be a guest on our show, you can email, just as the title says, Sometimes We're Bougie, Sometimes We Hood at gmail.com. We would love to have you on the podcast. So until next time, be kind to yourself, hold space for your emotions, and remember, you don't have to walk this road alone or in silence. Your love and your light still matters. So, again, take gentle care of yourself. And of course, make sure you follow, like, share, do all those wonderful things. Um, we'll probably do a part 3 because we weren't finished with this. So, next Sunday, there's a part 3 to this where we finish up. And we're going to talk about community voices actually when it comes to healing and grief, community voices when
Mm.
it comes to healing and grief. So, with that, um, This has been Sometimes We Boujee, Sometimes We Hood. I'm your host, Auntie Mimosa.
It's cousin Kareem.
And thank you. Right. And thank you for trusting us with your time, your heart, and your grief journey. Until next time, again, take gentle care of yourselves. Bye-bye. It's a podcast dedicated to exploring the complex emotions of loss, the road to healing, and the strength found in remembrance.